I wanted to explain a little bit before we get into it. I started filming this interview a few months back before I even started this YouTube channel. He mentions in the interview how important it is to record your interactions so that when you succeed, you can watch it back and then you double down on that and you repeat it over and over again. You use what works. That is so true. I can't stress this enough, how much it has helped me to record myself since starting this YouTube channel. And whenever I did stumble upon something that was successful, I had that recorded and I could go back and watch it over and over again. Sure, I recorded all the failures too. I don't even need to watch those. Just go back and record the successes. I've tried tons and tons of different pitches over the past months. I don't know why I needed to do that. The one that worked the best is the one that Carlos recommends in the sales handbook. But subconsciously, no matter what advice you get, if you're a rebel and you're in this industry, most of you are rebels. You like to do things your own way and you have to learn from your own experience. So you're going to go and experiment and try all these different pitches, and that's totally fine. It's going to give you tons of experience. But at the end of the day, I figured out what works best, and I use that. And just make sure you record your whole journey. I wish I had started recording it earlier because it has helped so much. And it takes months. It will not click right away. You need to have the stamina to get through the 3 to 4 months of failures and knocking thousands of doors and getting tons of no's. Lots of people give up after 1,000 doors. That's a lot of doors. They think, oh, it's not for me. You need to have that goal in your mind that the real winners in this industry have knocked 30,000, 50,000 doors. And I bet you those people didn't start seeing success until they got to the 2,000th or 3,000th door. And Carlos, as you'll see in the interview, he already had other experience with sales before getting into solar. Anyway, that's way more than I needed to say, but I got a lot out of this interview and just wanted to give you some of my thoughts before we get into it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this interview as much as I did. I got so many nuggets out of it. Carlos is such a treasure trove of information. I don't even think we touched the tip of the iceberg of what kinds of questions I could ask Carlos. So if you guys have any other questions you'd like me to do in future interviews, maybe a year from now, we're going to do another one of these. So leave your comments down below what other questions you would like to have asked. Maybe we'll even do one even sooner. If this does really well and we have a ton more questions, just let me know. Anyway, let's get into the interview. I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for watching, subscribe, all that. See you guys soon. Thank you. Welcome back to the Mind Your Business podcast. We're here with Carlos today. Very inspirational, very smart guy. Came originally from San Diego. You're born and raised there, right?
Nope. I was born and raised actually in Texas, San
Texas.
Antonio, which is where I went to college and all that stuff. Moved all across the country. That led me to San Diego for a while to sell solar, and then made the move, just like a lot of other people from California, during COVID and a lot of other things, out to the great state of Florida.
All right, so yeah, I want to get into that. I kind of want to hear like a little bit of background about you, like all from the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey to where we are today. Can you kind of give us like a little recap of where you started and where you are today?
Okay, well, I was a baby, and then I cried a bunch, and then I got what I wanted. So that's the beginning of sales, and then it kind of goes from there. Yes. As far as selling stuff, I would say probably started with a book I wrote. So I actually wrote a book on child protective services. Super depressing stuff. But here's the thing, is that any single time you're writing something, and if you want to make the most amount of money off of that thing that you've invested time in, you can either trust marketers to market a product or service that no one has ever sold before, which no one had written a book like that, or you can do it yourself. And so I learned to kind of market myself and ended up becoming a bestseller on Amazon within like 24 hours. And that was kind of the first focus that I was seeing there was, you know, there's a pain, there's a problem, which is a lot of people are dealing with this agency. I used to work for them as a special investigator. So I wrote a book about that, and that led to, okay, problem, now solution, right? Here's a lot of information you guys probably didn't have on this. And this is how we're able to, you know, facilitate a better endpoint for these consumers, right? Now, as far as like standard sales stuff, flooring. Flooring was my first real sales gig. I worked for 188 Empire, those guys in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And so when I did that, in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, and so when I was doing that, I was working for a company that was basically just barreling in, giving us leads on a consistent basis, right? I'd have to drive I worked within 3 different states. In New England, it's a little bit different. You can work on a bunch of different areas. Yeah. And you were trying to sell to any single type of demographic. And it was cash in hand. We got our installations that next day.
Wow.
So a big portion of it had to do with creating a sense of scarcity, urgency, and professionalism. And we were never, ever, ever, ever the cheapest. You go to Home Depot, get the deal done for 60% less. But it was going to be a botched job. It was going to take 2 to 3 more weeks. So we were going to use subcontractors in order to do it. Okay. And so it was about being able to create that prize frame with those customers. And that taught me so much when it comes to the etiquette and discipline when you're actually in someone's home. Right. Then from there, I moved out to San Diego, California. I watched a movie called The Big Short and saw mortgages, and I was like, that seems like a good gig. Got into the mortgage industry, did really well there. Phone sales. So I was selling majority to veterans, and your main job there was to try to pull someone's credit within 30 to 40 seconds. Whoa. Because you're trying to filter through as many leads as you can. And then my sales manager at the time told me that her son was making 3 times more than her selling solar door to door. Really silly thing to say to a young man. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not doing this for the love, right, of selling 4%, 5% interest rate loans. So I jumped into solar. I went on Indeed.com, found a rinky-dink little solar company to work for, worked with those guys for like a second, and then ended up working with a big box solar company after that. Within my first real month of selling solar, I think I did like 2 assists. It was terrible. I knocked every single day for 2 months solid when I first started. That was a real big thing in my head because I had a huge chip on my shoulder. It was just like, I've gotten a master's degree, I've done real work, everything else, and now I'm jumping into door knocking. And I just thought, I'm gonna have to make this work. There's no way. My second month, I started self-generating sales. I think I got 8 sales that month. And then my third month in, I sold 29 deals in a month.
Whoa. That was a big jump from 2 months of nothing to...
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so that month was nuts. I just started thinking in the perspective because I knew some guys from alarms and pest control, and they got sales every day. And I just thought in my head, I was selling a lease at the time. It was called the Power Purchase Agreement. And it just became a thing. I'm like, why can't I just get someone every single day while I'm doing this? Doesn't mean I got it every day. It admit that certain days I got more than other days. One day I had a day where I had 6 sales in one day. It was on a Monday. And that was a crazy one because what happened was I had a customer who was threatening to cancel who had signed up the week before. Went to their house, nice Filipino family, and they were having a whole party of people. And they had printed out the entire contract. And as soon as I got there, I looked around. I was like, man, that's a homeowner, that's a homeowner, that's a homeowner, that's a homeowner. So we sat down and I said, let's get the whole family together. Let's get the whole family together so we could talk about this contract. And I went through point by point, dissecting every single question and objection he had. And when we were wrapping up just about the end, I started looking around. I was like, do you want to do this as well? And they're like, yeah. Whoa. And handing utility bill, utility bill, utility bill, utility bill. So out of that potential cancellation, I got an additional 4 deals that day. And then right after that, I started just knocking as soon as I got out of there. I mentioned that I was setting up this whole family over here, and I ran into a duplex. And I sold both houses. And then I got 2 more assists right afterwards. I had a buddy who was like, hey, I got these 2 families. Do you want to connect with them? And I was in full-on spirit. And the thing is, once you build up that momentum, we start selling a bunch of deals. You just kind of go with it. There's no one who's going to say no. You have this crazy energy and conviction in you. Yeah. This is something I really recommend to new guys is record your pitches, record your closes. Because what you want to listen to is not when you failed. You actually want to listen to when you succeeded. Yeah. If you listen to yourself when you succeeded, you just repeat what you did, right? And that's the best starting point. It's not, I'm going to break down everything I did wrong. That's just a place of negativity. And you don't even necessarily know what the opposite of that wrong thing was. Right? You may think, oh, this is where I made a mistake. You have no idea. But then you listen to yourself succeed, and you go, oh, that's what I needed to do, right? That little connect, that little thing where I said, we take on liability and you gain the asset of cheaper power. Holy shit, that's a nugget, You'll just, once you're in that flow state, you'll just start repeating these little taglines out of nowhere, and you lock it in your head and go, oh, I got to use that. And then that becomes like the main portions of your close. You can teach people all the taglines in the world, but if they come up with it themselves or take on it, they believe in it so much more that even if whatever they're saying is flim, flam, flam, because they have the belief that flim, flam, flam is amazing, then they end up succeeding.
I totally agree with that. I just had a close and I was looking back at what I actually say at the door.
Yeah.
And I was looking and I was like, oh, that's why it worked. And I went back and saw it.
Yeah.
You're totally right. So, okay, so you had a big successful month, that third month that was?
Yeah, third month.
And then, so you said, I'm going to do this for another year and then start your own company. Where did the own company come out?
No, yeah, that was years later. I can't even remember the amount of years. So I worked for that company for a long time, and there were some heavy hitters. It was a big company. I ended up succeeding really well with those guys. My whole mission at that point was to become the sales rabbit. The sales rabbit is a very specific thing. So in every organization, you have a sales rabbit. It doesn't mean it's the manager. It means it's the guy who's selling so much that everyone's just trying to chase him, and no one can quite chase him. And at that time, I wasn't in a manager position yet. I didn't even know how to recruit. I didn't realize that recruiting is just another sale. It's just another conversation. If you can close someone in one thing, you can close them in other things, right? So you just got to figure out what are their objections. But I just decided, okay, now that I'm the number one sales rep and I'm getting all these accolades and people love me, I didn't realize that positive affirmations work so damn well on me. They work incredibly well. There's certain people, negative reinforcement, you call them a piece of shit, they start getting a lot better. Yeah. You call me a piece of shit, I'm going to kick you in the leg, I'm going to leave, right? I'm out of there. Or I'm not even going to pay attention to you, right? You can't be kicking customers left and right. But positive affirmations, when I got a lot of that stuff out of those guys, I just recognized, I was like, damn, I love this. I love this feeling. I don't want it to ever go away. And so I just had barrel focus. It was the only thing I cared about. I was playing with a band at the time. We were like touring around and doing stuff like that. Basically quit it right then and there. I was helping run the Libertarian Party of California. Stopped it right there. Stopped everything. Laser focus on that one thing. I'm going to be great at this. And then once you start getting in a lot of money as a result, then you realize that all the problems you had in the past that you thought were problems aren't problems anymore. Because if a problem can be solved with money, it's not a problem. It's just a matter of getting more money. And the entrepreneurial spirit is not thinking, I need to work more hours in order to get more money. It's, I need to make more money per hour, right? What is the greatest return on investment I can do? Okay, so if I'm only making this amount of much money off of these one deals, maybe I need to either charge up higher amount or work in another neighborhood. And it's just about how much capital can I accumulate at that time, having measurable things that you can have.
Okay. So where are we at now? This is kind of, you're becoming the sales rabbit.
Yeah, I became a sales rabbit for years and years. I ended up, and I saw all these moving and shaking while I was at that company.
And you had these positive affirmations. So these
positive affirmations, you get positive people, everything else. And then I just kept on selling more than everyone else year after year, now running the office and running a branch off the office and everything else. And I was loving it. As far as when, we decided with another guy by the name of Johnny Graham, who you know from Real Sales Dynamics, right? Johnny Graham was an absolutely fascinating guy. Yeah. There's not a lot of people that you can really connect with on a multitude of levels. Maybe it's not just sales, on like spiritual conversations, political conversations, all these different things, how you think of human mechanics. And I connected with him in that way. He was running an office in Colorado. And actually, funny enough, our rookie years, I wasn't looking at the numbers of everyone. So in my head, I was like, shit, I sold like 130 deals. I'm definitely rookie of the year. And then that first year, he beat me, right? In Colorado. And I was like, who the hell is this guy? And that's how we connected. I was just like, you sick fuck. How did you sell that many deals, right? Yeah. And we kind of became brothers at that time, right? We were really connected. And so we had kept up conversations for years and years, and I convinced him to move out to San Diego. And we started running things together, and we looked at things, and we just thought, there's definitely an opportunity, because we looked at not just red line stuff, but culture stuff and everything, that we wanted to create a shift, right? Something that we could write to our parents about, something that's bigger than just us, than just being the guys at this office who's working towards this great Utah empire, right? And we just thought, I think if we start a company that is made by door knockers, for door knockers, right? People for this industry, that we can do something really revolutionary. And a lot of that came from, the belief in reps, and the idea that instead of trying to get the most amount of margin off of one rep to make the most amount of money off the one deal that they ever sell for us, right? We instead work to help them build up their volume, right? Turning an Uber driver into a multimillionaire and creating those shifts and doing something completely different. So we went with that approach, and about the same time as that stuff was happening, I got to know Garrett, Derek, and another guy by the name of Shay. And they were all out of Colorado, and they actually started Real Sales Dynamics, right? They had been recruited out into San Diego, became really good friends with those guys, and we just thought, why isn't there more people filming this stuff, right? Why isn't there more people? Why isn't there an entertainment aspect to door knocking? Because our job is crazy, right? Our job is to turn strangers into friends, right? We're supposed to convince people that they can build equity, get a tax credit, be taken, stop getting taken advantage of from the utilities, while trusting a stranger to do that, right? And we end up with these crazy situations on a constant basis with all these different customers. And so it was a big portion. It was just like, we can do this. We can make this happen. And then started investing a lot of capital into Real Sales Dynamics until it became what it is now, which is our number one recruiting tool, right? I don't post in ads on Indeed, Craigslist, or anything else. But more importantly, it's revolutionized the solar industry. There are people messaging us left and right all the time who are working for other solar companies who go, I don't get trained over here, but thank you, dude. I just got 5 deals using your pitch. That feels awesome. I love that. That's leaving a lasting legacy, right? Where you're truly changing people. I don't even have to make money off that person or whatever else. I'm just creating those shifts.
All right.
And the more that we can have good reps in solar, the better it is for everyone. Because one of the main reasons someone doesn't go with you in the solar industry is not because they've never been pitched solar before. It's because they've been pitched badly so many times that they're now disgusted by solar as a whole. So they've left that bad taste in their mouth. So it's just factual that I will not get every single solar installation that ever happens in the country. It's not going to happen. I can't knock that many doors. I can't get my reps to knock that many doors. But if every one of those customers is having world-class experience, that means when I come to a new customer who's heard about solar, they go, I fucking love solar. You did this one, this one, this one, and these people did this person, that person. So it's creating that better culture.
So a good team helps a lot. So that's what goes back to when you were having that positive affirmation.
Yeah.
You had a team, you're saying that helped you a lot when you had a team that cheered you on as the top guy.
Yeah, having that good team culture, and we've really tried to reflect that here. I think, it's a big thing that when you have a sales office together, negative reinforcement. I don't really believe in using that because the doors are hard enough as it is, right? The world out there is cold and dark and rough enough,
Right.
right? We have to find order and chaos every single day. So should I be adding more chaotic energy into those people's spirits every single day? No. I should be going, hey, here's order, here's structure, here's a mindset that's going to lead to success versus get me the numbers, get me the numbers, get me the numbers. It's let me paint a picture of what it means to live a life with integrity and what that can result in, right? Versus living a life in which you throw away every single dollar you have as soon as you get it because you just want another hedonistic event to happen in your life. Right? Creating that change, though, comes from internally and from a belief thing. So we try to kind of reframe people's beliefs and how they view their own lives and see how the direct results of that in their success at our company, right? Because door knocking, this sales lifestyle, right, is legitimately a lifestyle. It completely changes the way that you think about how money works. If you think in the 9-to-5 way, it's I'm going to count the amount of time that goes by until I'm dead. Right? That's all it is. It's like I'm going to die here. Versus I can make money there, and there, right? And in certain cases, 1 hour can be worth $27,000. And another time it's worth being able to spend time with my wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And both those are wonderful things.
It's good to have a good work-life balance.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know you were at that point where you just jumped into flooring. Was there a reason you picked sales? It's like some people get into build character. Some people know they're good at it. They just
I had no idea, honestly. At the time, I had gotten my master's in social work, and then I had written and done podcasts and things like that about how the agency I was working for was not a good place to work. Basically, whatever bridge was there, I lit it on fire and then burned the other side. And so when I was looking for other opportunities, I found that sales was this crazy place where it's a culture of the margins, right? You can go in any sales office, you're going to meet guys who went into school to try to be attorneys, other guys who dropped out in middle school. And everyone's at the exact same place. It's a pure meritocracy, where it's just a matter of how much money you can bring for yourself and for your company. That trust in numbers leads to an awesome culture. because it's never like in academia where you have to suck up to certain people or have the exact correct opinions about anything. Everyone here has completely different views on a magnitude of different things, but they all have a belief in human determination and the belief in themselves that they're bigger than what they were, born to be necessarily. No one picks when they're 5 years old, I'm going to be a salesman when I grow up. I doubt many people are like that. Maybe some are, I'm not sure, but most aren't. But the cool thing here is that you're able to create that transformation for yourself.
So that's what attracted you, is that you could
and the money.
make your numbers yourself.
You can make the numbers yourself. The training was literally 2 weeks, but yet you're doing something that's significantly more complex than you could possibly imagine. And you're connecting with people.
Okay.
Right. And you're connecting with strangers. Right? Life's about collecting stories and leaving the world a better place than when you got there.
Right.
If I can connect to strangers, create those stories, and then leave them with a way better place off, where they're no longer tied to the utilities and they're getting a bunch of money back from the federal government, I'm leaving them off in a way better place.
What are some of the biggest lessons or mistakes you made in your career that you could help others avoid?
Biggest mistakes. Setting too high goal for yourself.
Oh, really?
This seems a little weird.
So you don't believe
But
it?
it depends on the type of person, right? The kind of person I am, if I say like, oh, I'm going to sell 40 this month, and that week I sold 9 deals, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm projected to sell this 40. And then that next week, a lot of things fall through, other stuff happens. You start feeling and beating yourself up, which means you're now walking into closes with limited self-esteem. When in actuality, you've already sold 9 deals this month, which is amazing, right? So you're beating yourself up by comparing yourself to something that's not necessarily reachable at that time in your life, right? So it's not about, you shouldn't set up yourself to fail, right? And a lot of people do. When someone is joining a company, and this is something that I've gotten from a lot of different people that I've seen, who I've brought in, I have never had a guy be successful who came in and said, I'm going to be the number 1 rep here. Never. Ever. I have hired hundreds of people. Every single time they're like, I'm going to be the top GS Solar. I'm going to be your best guy. I'm going to be with it. I'm amazing. That guy gets 1 sale his first month and just has the rug pulled underneath them. They cancel and the whole thing breaks apart. Every single time. You have to stay massively coachable, right? You have to be incredibly resourceful. If you can stay humble, resourceful, and coachable, you're going to be able to succeed here, right? But if you come in cocky as all hell, that you're going to be the best guy without knowing anything about the industry, you're setting yourself up to fail. And that is the worst thing that you can do. So just stay humble when you come in. You're always learning.
You don't believe in the 10x rule, setting your goals 10x higher than you think to, at least land short and still be really headed where
that might work for Grant Cardone. And again, I understand that thought process. But I believe more in reliable goals, and then you get incredibly happy whenever you just balloon and hit them, right? Because I never stop at my goal, right? When I hit 29, I didn't hit 15 in a week and then go, okay, I'm done for the month. It's just like, I want this to keep on going. This feels good and good and good and good, and more things keep adding to it.
I like that philosophy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll have to finish this next week then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Good stuff. We'll just all wear the same clothes.
That's easy enough for me.
All right, guys. Welcome back to the Mind Your Business podcast, where we interview different entrepreneurs, business owners, and just positively inspirational, motivational people. Have you ever heard of that before?
Positively inspirational, motivational people?
PIMP.
Pimp. Love that. Okay, fantastic. Hopefully you won't be pimping my ride as well. You do not need a fish tank in my trunk.
Okay. Well, yeah, Carlos is definitely a pimp, so... Well, I wanted to get a little bit of background of you and how you ended up where you are today. So just catch us up on where we are, and then we'll go and do some different, like a flow chart of how that happened afterwards.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So we're in one of our offices in Largo, Florida.
So I wanted to know a little bit about where you got into sales in general, kind of how you were raised. What kind of, are you a natural salesperson, or are you more of a trained salesperson?
The first time that I realized that I could win people over, right? Because that's what sales is.
That's when you realize you're in sales. You want to be in sales.
Yeah, right. Because the thing about sales and communication as a whole is that it's bastardized telepathy, where we're trying to get an image in our head into your head. That's all we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out any single way to do that by breaking down any filters that you have that separate me from you, right? So in college, I was in a lot of different political groups and debate groups along those lines. And when you're 18, 19, 20, what you're generally trying to do is you're focusing on things that are way outside of your locus of control, right? How to change the entire world, how to change the political structures. You're very high and mighty and you're filled with a lot of energy, and that's good stuff, right? That moves mountains, that's really important. But at the same time, what that can also lead to is having a sense of a higher sense of importance in what's actually happening at the time. So while I was trying to change people's minds about political views, religion, and things along those lines, I did kind of take a path of discovery of realizing that in order to truly change someone else's mind, you're changing their belief systems, you actually have to connect with them because you have to build a sense of trust. Whenever you're attacking another person in an intense manner, they're going to actually double down on whatever the beliefs they have, whether they're true or whether they're false. And so you have to kind of open up that line of communication. From there, I actually ended up getting a master's in social work and worked for Child Protective Services as a special investigator, and that was in San Antonio, Texas. While I was there, obviously I learned a lot of skill sets that I have right now, right? Like de-escalation tactics, where you're in high conflict situations. Now, stating that, the worst thing that happens in my job on any given day is that maybe someone doesn't pass credit. In that job, someone can end up losing their life, right? You can end up having a kid pulling a gun on you, like I had a situation like that. I'll tell you a story about that actually real quick. Yeah, a kid pulled out a gun. I went to go talk to this family. Only the kid was there. He was like left by himself, which was really odd, right? And because it was a call-in situation about childhood neglect. And the kid pulled a gun on me. And there's a couple different reactions that you can have in that situation. If you go like, oh my God, you scream out and everything else, what's going to happen? That kid gets scared. And then he might end up pulling the trigger. My reaction was, man, that's weird. Why would he do that? It seems really odd. Inside, I'm freaked out and like, I don't want to die and everything else. But I'm like, that's a really weird thing to do. So he's like, and he put the gun down. He started crying and he hugged me. Right? And in that moment, there's multiple ways you can act. But the main thing is that however you're acting, if you're leading the conversation, is how they're going to respond. So if I'm acting in a hostile, scared manner, then that kid is going to act in that hostile and scared manner. So that's a teaching path that you can take, is that mirroring effect and the importance of it and leading that conversation. Now, I left that job at Child Protective Services in a kind of a rough spot where I was recognizing at that time that a lot of the things that we were doing there weren't necessarily helping out families. We put a lot of kids into situations that ended up being worse for their families as a whole. It's really unfortunate stuff. And I ended up writing a book about it called Legally Kidnapped: The Case Against Child Protective Services. And during that time, before I even started doing the writing, I started doing podcasts and YouTube videos, getting out the message, speaking to thousands of people all across the country at different conventions and things like that, right? Because I became kind of a whistleblower against the agency. And even in that process, again, it's an aspect of communication, right? I'm trying to not necessarily sell my ideas, but partially, you're selling your ideas. You're trying to change the narrative on a national level. And what I found through that journey of going out and speaking to people and trying to change minds and trying to really help out people as a whole was that at the end of the day, the number one tool that any person can have is the ability to be able to communicate with another person. Anyone can kind of do manual labor, at least 30% of people, although as people get fatter, we'll see, right? But the ability to really be able to explain something important and connect to someone, that's everything in this world. And the book ended up doing really well. And the reason the book did really well was because I gave a lot of information out for free. And Alex Ramosi talks about this. There's a guy I like a lot. He says, give things out for free. If you want to get out there, give things out for free. Give things out for free, and then you'll be able to reap what you sow. And so I, before the book came out, and I had talked to a couple publishers, and they told me, you're going to get 4% or 5% of the book. I had done all of the advertising for this. I had a podcast that had like 100,000 listens, all this different stuff. And I was like, you have no idea how to market this. I know how to market this. And if I'm only going to get 4% for all this work, I'm going to have to sell an absurd amount of books. Versus if I go the self-publishing route, I can actually do a lot better, right? And I chatted with a couple other authors during this process. What I did was, while I was giving out information, I was able to connect with other authors and started talking to them about different stuff. A guy by the name of Thaddeus Russell helped me out a lot. He wrote the Renegade History of the United States. Really cool dude. He said some wacky stuff recently that got him some trouble, but outside of that, really cool dude. And he kind of explained to me the right routes. So I listened to my elders. I listened to guys who had already done it. And I read about a couple different tactics. And so what I did was, before the book came out, I was giving away all of this information for free. So I built an audience that way. And then I messaged all these people who were writing about homeschooling, the issues of public education, basically people within my wheelhouse. And I told them all, hey, I will write you an article that'll be exclusive just for you. You don't have to pay me a dime. I just want you to release it the day my book comes out. Right? Wow. And so I wrote like 20 different articles, all for these different people. And for every single one of them, I said, at the very end, say like, for my readers only, you can get this for this amount for this day. And I set it for real cheap for just the ebook edition, right? Something where it's like, it's easily digestible, $6. Anyone will spend $6 or something. But now that I was going through Amazon, I was making like 50 or 60% on that. I sold 40,000 copies in a day. Wow. By doing that.
By leveraging other audiences.
By leveraging other audiences and growing it through there. And then that gave me a boatload of reviews. Then I raised the price that next day to like $12, and then it just kept on selling and selling, and I still make money off of it today. And that facilitated an ability to be able to communicate with a much bigger audience. And the thing about it was that after I was done with it, this is the crazy thing, I didn't want to talk about it anymore. Going to giving speeches about child protective services, you're talking to people who got their kids taken away. In a lot of cases, you can't even necessarily help them, right? They're past the point of like the initiation of the conversation. They need attorneys. And so I had like two different routes. It was, do I keep making this what I'm going to do for my entire life, right? Or did I do my part? I wrote my book. I said all the things I needed to say. And now I can go towards a different route. And so I went, yeah, I don't want to be in this space all the time. This is massively depressing. I mean, I'm reading about like medical kidnapping, some horrific cases. And so I just thought, okay, maybe I'll jump back into social work. Well, I did a couple of interviews with social work jobs, and they all heard about my book. I took that bridge, I lit that thing on fire, and I set it ablaze on the other side. And so God had other plans for me. And I just went on Indeed.com, and I was like, okay, what can I get into? And I got into freaking flooring sales, right? And at this time, I was living in New Hampshire. I jumped around a couple different spots. I was in New Hampshire. And I was like, okay, you know what? Let's do flooring sales. Let's give this a shot. And they said they were going to pay for my stay for 2 weeks at a hotel. I was like, oh my God, this is a real job. Turns out that pay gets reflected in your pay later on, but that's another story. Not a lot of pay, but I learned a lot through that job. I learned so much. It was all older guys. I was the youngest person there by like 25 years. People looked at me when I was like, yeah, I wrote a book and this other stuff. They're like, what? Why are you here? I was like, I want to learn. And, you know, they set up leads for me. I'd go out there, I'd measure houses, and I'd sell deals. And I learned so much through that, like how to get a customer bought in, creating incentive structures, leveraging different aspects of the sales process in order to win them over. And I ended up doing exceedingly well my first year out there. Then I got sick of the weather, the cold, everything else. I knew some other people who were living out in California. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to go out there. Went out to Cali and looked around and was just thinking, okay, I'm going to keep doing flooring sales over here. Well, it's not going to be able to afford me living out here. So I watched a movie called The Big Short, and it mentioned mortgages. So again, went on Indeed.com, found a job for mortgages, got my NMLS license in like 3 weeks, and sold a lot of mortgages during that time. My sales manager mentioned to me, I was stressing out. I mean, you know, it was a crazy job. You had to pull credit like 8 to 10 times a day with random people over the phone. When these people over, very high stress level with pretty exceedingly higher interest rates than they were in the past. And sales manager told me that her son was making 3 times more than her selling solar. So I was like, okay, great. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. And I jumped into the solar bandwagon, and I've been doing it ever since.
Okay, wow, that was a lot. I have a bunch of questions that I got from that. I wanted to go back to the CPS. Why did you get into the first place? Did you think it was going to help the kids, and then you found out that it doesn't in the process?
So yeah, to explain, like I'm very much on the, I would say, libertarian circuit of political philosophy, right?
And can you just catch us up on what
Catch
that
us
means?
up on that?
What that
Okay,
means?
got it. What do you say monopolies are bad?
Yeah.
Yeah, monopolies aren't super useful, right? The problem with them is that if you don't have any inherent competition, it tends to make people lazy and they make bad decisions.
Yeah.
Right? And if that monopoly comes really rested in power, then it can cause all kinds of issues, right? We tend to like market forces. Okay. So how would you define policing, public schooling, and the government? Monopolies. They're all it's a monopoly on violence, right? So the idea is if this is the case here where monopolies don't work, then it probably doesn't work over here. And that whenever we have monopolies in any setup, that's going to be negative for humanity as a whole. So that's kind of like the smaller aspect of how it works, is that
So there's kind of like no democracy in those forms of our country,
yeah, exactly.
in those fields.
Right? And then secondarily, right, so there's a problem with monopolies, and the second one is this. Can you give away a right that you don't have?
It's too vague for me to understand.
Okay. So do you have a right to steal from me?
No.
You don't, right? Let's just say there's a personal right bias. Could you tell him to steal from me?
I could. That would be like a mob boss.
Be a mob boss, right? But it still wouldn't be ethical. You
No.
really can't, you don't still don't have that right, so you can't give away that right, right? Well, taxation itself, by its very nature, is people taking money from someone else, right? Without them saying yes. So you can't give away a right that you don't have. So by very definition, the idea of like taxation is kind of unethical. That's the libertarian kind of purview in a small hole, and that's the best way I can kind of explain the ethical implications of it. What that looks like on a larger scale, it all just kind of depends, and this isn't that type of show.
Wouldn't you agree that we get to choose what our taxation gets used for through our voting system?
How is that working out?
I'm not too involved with politics.
Fair enough. I'll just let you know that we're spending a lot of money that we don't have. We'll be doing it for a really long period of time, and our debt is in a place where even if we tax the top 1%, we would pay off the economy for about 11 days if we tax them completely, right? You really wouldn't pay much stuff, and it's just one of those weird situations where if people continuously get money for not providing a value, providing a resource out of it, then it tends to screw up incentive structures, and people are about as good as their incentives.
I see. So the people in the government aren't really that motivated to make a big difference because they're getting the money anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like audience capture. It just kind of screws
Everyone
things
has
up.
to pay their taxes. They can't. They're not motivated to make an actual difference.
Yeah, exactly. And it can screw up incentive structures where you continuously make it sound like the problem's bigger than it is in order to be able to get more money, and you can leverage.
Can you
the
imagine
government
if
for that.
the people that are receiving the tax-paying dollars are like, "Thank you so much for sending the tax money today. We're so appreciative of it."
Yeah, exactly. Instead, they're like,
They're like,
give me,
give it to, just give it to me.
Instead, if you're holding more than $10,000 in cash in your car, then a cop can just steal that money and doesn't have to say anything. All right, civil asset forfeiture.
Okay, I'm caught up now.
Yeah, fair enough, right? So that's like the libertarian purview on things. Anyway,
I would agree with it.
So what the hell was the question prior to that,
The
though?
question was, did you think that going to CPS was going to make a difference?
So here's the thing. So in my mind, for the longest time, I thought if I just had that conversation right there, I could change people's minds about politics and we could change everything. Then I realized, after doing a bit of research, that the reason why people act the way they are is because of the way they were treated as children, right? And if people treat children in a bad way, you tend up with a more violent society, right? My thesis paper was on the childhood origins of violence. If your society tends to be violent towards their kids, then when they become adults, they become violent towards other people. You can see like World War II and the Bulgaria and Germany and stuff. You can find all that to be the case.
Oh, really?
Okay. Oh yeah, pretty consistent all the way through. And so
you thought that talking to the parents would change their minds?
well, the idea was this: if I can get involved in an agency that's actually protecting children, then we can change society as a whole.
Okay.
Right. So even though I had governmental problems and
Fair
things,
point.
I was like, I want to be able to help out kids. And I started like really empathizing with that. And there was actually a couple circumstances in which I saw people abusing kids before I worked for Job Record Services and stopped them from hitting their kids in public.
And then that gave you the idea that, hey, I can do
Hey,
this.
I should probably do this.
Yeah.
Right? It gives you that nice like hero's journey. But then your hero's journey, it's does a flop straight into a bureaucratic hell. And then you actually see what's going on. And you're like, they're not really helping out.
So when you got into the agency and you actually started doing it for a living, you realized that there's a different narrative within the agency.
Yeah, you're taking kids away from homes because the parent smokes pot, so you can throw them in a foster home in which they're drugged regularly. It's pretty rough.
So they were forcing you to take kids out of homes where
Yeah.
they smoke pot and your
Smoke
fellow
pot.
was
Which,
stupid.
by the way, they didn't ever drug tested us, which was interesting. So they didn't drug test the reps, but we had to drug test the clients. Thought that was
Yeah, that's backwards. So you didn't really get to do what you wanted to do because you were under an agency.
yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. So theoretically, you could go and do this on your own, right? Like I'm like a bounty hunter.
Not quite.
No?
No. There's a legal phrase from the early 1900s called parens patriae, which is that the state essentially owns the children, which is weird, but that's legally how it holds. The parent doesn't actually have the right to the kid. The state does, which is kind of uncomfortable.
Dang.
But that's why you can label kids' parents for like truancy for not bringing that.
This makes sense. This is why you decided to go and do the book, because then the book gave you that freedom.
Freedom.
Because freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech. I had the ability to be able to talk. And again, I love America. I'm much more happy to be here than anywhere else in the entire world, because you can actually say how bad the government is here without getting your head chopped off.
Well, judging from the success of the book, sounds like you got the impact you wanted to
I
make.
got the impact that I wanted to make. Did it lead to legislative changes? No. But it allowed people to learn a way to be able to defend themselves. It explains to you how to talk to child protective services investigators.
Okay, so the target audience of the book was the abusive parents, or
No. So the target audience, no, for the most part, they don't read.
they don't. So how do you
They
affect
don't
that?
read. No. So the target audience of the book is actually, in a lot of cases, CPS goes after people in different types of lifestyles. Homeschoolers. They go after people who homeschool pretty often. People who don't vaccinate their kids. To get into more political stuff, we'll anchor that out for the YouTube audience. And for just a lot of lower middle income people, you would be surprised by how many times CPS gets called on people as a grudge. They'll just get mad at you, like a neighbor will get mad, and they'll just call CPS on you.
Because they hear you yelling at the kids, or
No, they'll make shit up. Like it's pretty regular, especially in lower income communities where people will make stuff up.
just to get them.
Yeah, I always knew it was a fake call whenever it'd say like there's heroin and cocaine and the Mexican mafia is involved. Like they would say that in the intake. And the thing is, the reporting's anonymous,
Okay, yeah.
so you can call as many times as you want, and nothing happens to you. And the investigator has to keep going out to the house.
I have filed once before I was knocking a door, and I just heard like the absolute worst things behind that door. And I reported. They said it's been dismissed. Like they didn't.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing is like sometimes they go after the easy to deal with pothead, and they take away their kids.
They didn't take my.
But then there's a real
seriously.
case, and they don't take it seriously at all, right? And that's the thing is that there's no real auditing of what's going on because they have all the power.
There's no way for them to validate what I said.
Yeah,
I even sent them a recording though. I recorded on my phone from outside the door.
yeah, which they can kind of use it, and sometimes they can't because we're in a two-party state,
Really?
which means both sides have to know you're recording, which makes RSD really fun.
Oh, okay. So the recordings that you do for the YouTube channel, they're not really technically allowed.
Yeah, like exactly. Like
If
it
the
would
party
hold-
found out,
If the party found out and they told us to take it down, then we just take it down. Like it wouldn't be like a lawsuit.
not a big deal. Yeah.
it's not a big deal. And we've never gotten in any hot water for that.
Okay. So your target audience of the book was what again?
Was political extremists. Let's just call it that. Right?
Okay.
People who could potentially deal with things like child protective services, but
Because they're lobbyists.
yeah. And then there's also people though who are just interested in the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If there are 300,000 kids in foster care right now, that's a lot of kids, right? And they're 7 to 8 times more likely to be abused than if they stay in low-income houses. They're 8 to 10 times more likely to be placed on pharmaceutical drugs than children in low-income areas. They're 3 times more likely to die than if they stayed in an abusive household.
In the foster home. Mm-hmm. Oh, so that's kind of what you're bringing light to. In the
Yeah.
book. Interesting.
Depressing shit. And this is why I'm in solar now, because it's a lot more fun.
Okay.
Right? See, if you stay in that space all the time, that's the thing. It's like it can map out a pretty scary world for you, right?
Okay.
Versus what you're actually appearing and what you're actually saying. So I wanted to do my service, like, hey, here's my service. This is my thing. This is my obligation to myself, and I feel like to other people, so that they can know that information. And I drop that grenade, and then I leave.
Well, how do you think you can target the abusive parents? Is there any way to get a message out to them?
Yeah, and the thing is that things are actually getting kind of better depending on how you're judging it.
Really?
The amount of occurrences of people like regularly hitting their kids in public is lowered pretty significantly.
Really?
I believe that's happening a lot. Yeah, if you look at the numbers.
Why is that?
Societal pressure. People are less okay with it, just depending on your income demographic and your culture. And so
Teachers used to hit kids. It's not acceptable.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, a lot of people are now switching on to like using psychotropic drugs on their kids, but you can't change everything.
Okay.
So it's all a matter of kind of like flipping the narrative on it that children are not born broken. And
This
they're
is
not, yeah.
I totally am with you. This is a very interesting topic. I probably would have done the same thing had I even known about it.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating.
Yeah.
But Yeah, we can move on. I wanted to get more into when you met Johnny and Jake and how that all formed.
You know, the thing about solar and sales in general is that a lot of times it's just a bunch of good old boys who just like to party and go knock and they stay in their lane. And I totally appreciate that, understand it, and I can relate to those guys. But when I want to talk about weird stuff, like everything we just chatted about right now, there's not a lot of people that you can relate to. And he was one of those guys. He just knew a lot of different things, and we were cut from a similar cloth in that way. And so we connected. He ended up moving out to San Diego, and we were working together out there. And you know, one of the things that we were running into was issues with installers, right? We were set with these specific installers, we could only be using them. Then we're looking at like pay scale stuff, and we're looking at like, wow, we're not paying our reps that well. And there was just like a laundry list of different things that were kind of going on between them and the higher organization stuff, where I looked at it and I was like, I think I'm bored, and I think there's an opportunity here to be able to benefit these reps in a more meaningful way. And I think there's a different recruiting style that we can go towards that can change some things. And I'm the kind of person that if I'm not in control of my own destiny, I'm not a big fan of it. I like being the center locus of control, right, in my life. That's what I've kind of always been. Yeah. I produce stuff by myself, I do stuff. And so we decided, okay, let's team up, and we got that together. It was an interesting start, and the reason why we're at the position we're at right now has more to do with real sales dynamics than nearly anything else, which is obviously the YouTube channel that most people know us from. And with real sales dynamics, really similar to the book thing, which was I gave away nearly everything for free in order to bring people in and just give it away. And there was these, you'd see trainings online, and some guy just talking in front of a fucking whiteboard telling you how to sell. Like, get out there and show us it's real. Yeah. And show us the non-interested. Show us the cancellations. Show us all the bad stuff, so that we trust you more.
There's some of these guys in the solar industry that only do this whiteboard stuff, and I can't find any footage of them knocking.
Yeah, and you're just like, okay, why would I trust you? Yeah. Right? And I ended up taking it a little bit even further. I think one of the videos where I was talking about, the good, bad, and ugly of solar, I explained like, hey, listen, there's some companies out there that are doing really shoddy work, and they're not winning over customers in the right way. And just like the child protective services stuff, I just wanted to be upfront about it. There's a portion of me that's always like that whistleblowing, exposing guy. That's always in there. He's always there going, with this is bullshit over here. And I have to combat that with an optimism that I have to wake up with every single day, which is like, yeah, this stuff is bad over here, but oh my God, this is amazing that I can talk to anyone in the entire world through this phone right now. Isn't this great that we have chairs rather than sitting on rocks, right? Isn't it great that
modern society is pretty
modern great. Society is fucking amazing, right? So, but in any modern society or any single emerging industry, there's going to be scammers. They're going to be all over the place. And so the way you can separate yourself out is not by never talking about it. There's guys out there, we know them, who don't ever mention any of that stuff because they're like, well, we don't want it to create a toxic environment. We don't want people to know. I'm like, well, people already know. So just say it. Say there's people selling systems that are undersized. Say there's people that are doing shoddy work. Say that reps are getting lied to about how pay works and things like that. Just throw it all out there. And then if the only way you're able to keep them is by keeping away all of the information, then you don't deserve them in the first place, right? I practice what I preach. I sell the way that I sell. People can record me. You've been out there videoing me. Like, I put it all out there so you can see, hey, this is the way you actually do it. So that some, desk jockey can't sit behind and go like, well, he's not actually selling.
No, you put the proof in the pudding for sure.
Yeah.
So what are some keys to a successful sales organization? I'm always within the belief that you got to look at it from the salesperson's perspective and make it worth. Always pay the salesperson a little bit more than you would even think, because
just adding in those exactly that. So there's two routes, and they both work. I'm not even going to say mine is the only one that works. Not true, right? It's two routes. You can go volume or you can go margin, right?
Okay, explain that. Yeah.
So a margin-based company does things like this. So for your first 10 deals, Ben, we're going to motivate you. We're going to rally you up. Everything else, you're just going to make $1,500 per deal for your first 10 self-gens. But at the 10th deal, you're going to go on a cruise. We're going to do this for you. We're going to get you geared out. We're going to spend all of this back-end money and give it to you, right? And give you all this stuff. Because what they're actually expecting is that you never sell your 10 deals, right? When I've looked at a lot of companies, most reps will sell 6 and then they're out, and that's it. So they're going to make all the margin off you that they can. They're not going to train you up well. They're just going to tell you, hey, do you have any friends or family that need solar?
It's
They're
backwards.
Exactly. They're going to try to get, but there's companies that have been able to run like that for a really long time, and they have these huge recruiting bonuses and everything else, and they run like pest control companies.
Bad rep.
Yeah, it's not a great experience for a rep. It's not a company that I'd want to work for, right? But they exist, and that's fine. Then there's volume, which is I'm going to give you a shit ton of training. When someone gets onboarded with us, they get a 60-page book that I wrote on Florida solar sales. They get all these videos, they get gear, they get all that stuff set up. We put a bunch of energy into them. And I don't just hire anyone. You know, I go through like a circulation process. Had 17 calls yesterday. I led to talking to 3 people today, right? I go through all those things, and then we pay you a great amount of money per deal, building that loyalty from there. And then our expectation is that any rep who joins us is going to sell at least 40 to 50 deals, right?
Stay long
So yeah,
term.
we're not going to make a lot of money per deal per rep. The idea is that we're building a volume organization, and the sales rabbits will come.
I think it's the best way to go. You build loyalty and they stay long term, and it grows instead of having lots of churn.
Yeah, lots and churn and burn and things like that. And we've ended up creating a really interesting atmosphere that most sales companies are afraid of. Most solar companies do not want to hire people from solar. I've talked to managers, owners, everything, all of them. They do not like
They
hiring
just want
people
to
from
get
solar.
advantage of people that are new.
Kind of. It's also, you know, some of the times the reason why someone leaves a company is because they weren't good. And they're blaming it on management. And that's what I'm always trying to ebb out on my conversations, is when I'm on a call, if a guy's doing nothing but not taking any responsibility for his own failures and is blaming this person, this person, this person, this person, I know after 3 weeks he's going to do the same shit over here, right? And there's that risk that comes with it. On our end, and in California, that can be a real problem because there's actually a lot of good training companies out there. So if you're failing, it's usually because of you. Over here, I'm taking to Florida like a conquistador. It's amazing how little training there is with most of the companies out here. And people say the market's saturated, but it's 1% solar penetration. That doesn't sound very saturated to me. That sounds like you have a lot of reps who aren't selling. And so I've ended up now, 80 to 90% of the reps who work for us in Florida are problem children. They are the people that people are worried about bringing in guys from other companies. And I love it because that means that when they come in, they go, holy shit, he knows what he's talking about. This is amazing. And so I'm taking that level of California professionalism that we needed. That's the good part of California, the professionalism part. I'm bringing that over here and taking a lot of the tools that I learned over there over to here in order to emphasize a higher tier of sales rep so that people can have a better experience. This is part of why I believe in what we're doing with Real Sales Dynamics so much. I'm not going to be able to sell every single solar deal, and I'm not going to have every single rep that's ever been in solar work for me. It's just true, right? I don't have an office in Arkansas. But if more customers have positive experiences when they're selling solar, that means that there are more customers to get. But if I know people are being treated badly in, let's say, Arkansas, and they go sell a bunch of crap deals, the city decides to shut down solar completely and not an opportunity anymore. That's happening in my city. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. The utility there has basically shut off solar because there's so many scammers who are coming in there selling crap deals. And it gave the way for the utility to be able to say, nope, no more.
That's why training the community as a whole is good, and putting out good content helps us as a whole. So you're a fundamentally good guy. You give everyone a good opportunity, and it just rewards you in troves.
It's fun.
It's just good to just not be a scammer in the solar industry.
Yeah. If you're being really open about it, if you're being really open about everything, then you're actually painting yourself into a corner in which you have to act properly.
It pays in troves to actually just be genuine and do the right thing long term. And you're just trying to get a quick buck. And I actually.
But the thing is, it barely even gets you a quick buck because most of the guys who sell like that, they get caught.
Doesn't work at all.
They get caught. They see the loan docs. Something else is going. Florida's now making it harder for people to just scam, which is great, right? Because of the way the tech's getting there and everything else. When it comes to leases, that stuff's like wicked wacky, right? But now it's like, okay, we actually got to get this person convinced to get a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 loan in order to benefit them.
Yeah, absolutely. I tried that margin route back in high school. My first business, I tried getting people to sell. I was building custom computers, and I tried to get someone on Twitter to sell 10 computers for me, and then I give them a free computer. And they would never get to 10 computers.
Yeah.
And I never even got any sales that way, but it was like an idea I had.
Yeah.
And I learned real early on that margin method did not work.
It's not great. It's not great. You have to be a specific type of personality type to keep that going. It's very cult-like personality.
It's cold. It's cold too.
Yeah, it's cold. Yeah, it's like and to be fair, network marketing makes a lot of money for a very specific group of people.
It is a networking marketing
It's
kind
not,
of thing.
it's the MLM style of
It's
thing.
not ethical.
It's not my thing. It's not my cup of tea.
You're not going to wake up feeling good about yourself in the morning.
No, I spend a lot of time making fun of it. I love watching like all the pyramid scheme conspiracy stuff on YouTube. It's some of my favorite things.
Okay. So keys to a successful sales organization: be genuine.
Yeah.
Just do generally the right thing, and treat your salespeople well, and they're going to become loyal. They're going to stay long term, and they're going to be unstealable. No other companies are going to be able to come to Pacific United and try to take the reps, because everyone loves you, Carlos, and there's really no one in the community that's going to be able to say, hey, we can do better than Pacific United Power.
Well, thank you, Ben. And you've been an awesome asset to the company already. You've been here for just a short period, and just like we were talking about earlier, you came from kind of another installer, but you weren't really trained up or anything else like that. And then we actually went out, and you're like, oh, okay, this is how it works. And you've really taken the tools that we've given you, and your the way that you work is like you like writing things out. And like understanding it and learning as much as you can, and then you go and use that in field.
And you mentioned that too. You got into flooring sales because you just wanted to learn. You were already successful. I'm kind of the same way. I was very good with the photography industry, but I was like, I want to learn something new. I want to start a new journey. And solar is for that. That's for me. So this is the final part of the long-awaited Carlos podcast. So we got into a lot of your background up to this point. As I'm sure you're already aware, Carlos, great leaders lead by example. And I see you leading from the front. You are out there on the doors, making a great example for all the reps, and managing a company at the same time, and still managing to pull amazing numbers. Do you agree that great leaders lead by example? And do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm talking from behind an office desk and I'm not actually physically knocking the doors, who's going to trust me when I say this is how you respond and not interested, right? But if you're out there every single day knocking door after door, you're going to have a good feel for what's actually happening in the community, what's happening in the city, in the state, in the country. And by being able to use that information, you're able to train up people better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what were some of the early challenges you faced in getting the business off the ground?
Well, in part, the business wasn't completely plotted out by the time we were leaving the other company that we're at. So they had gotten word that we had some communication about potentially starting our own dealer. And boom, the rug was pulled pretty instantaneously. And we brought in these reps. Some of them hadn't had any training whatsoever. And we were trying to build a parachute after getting tossed out of a plane.
Wow.
Right? Because out of nowhere, you suddenly have to be negotiating with installers, making sure that you're getting the best possible door knocking apps, like figuring out all these different things.
All right, Carlos, so you're not running the typical solar installation company. You're running a sales organization.
Yep.
What does that look like?
Well, so being a broker, right, it can be a great rep experience, because that means that if you trust, the people that you're working with, that they're doing everything they can in order to get the best possible payout for the reps while creating the best possible experience for the customers, right? And so what happens is, in certain cases, if one installer is getting too many deals in the pipeline that they don't know how to contract that out, right, or get those jobs done, and that causes issues, which I've seen time and time again working with just one installer, then that can really shoehorn you and your reps into a bad position to where you can't be nimble. The issue, though, or the thing that makes it kind of difficult, is that when you're the broker, you're also holding the majority of the liability. So if something goes wrong with a customer, or if something goes wrong with a rep or anything else like that, you're essentially the middleman in all the situations. And if you look out through human history, the two people who are mostly middlemen, Jews and Armenians, they tend to get blamed for a lot, right? So you're taking on a tremendous amount of liability and pressure in order to create the best possible experience for these people, right? And so it's a really interesting and exciting thing to do. I love sitting in boardrooms with installers, figuring out, what's the pluses and minuses, trying to figure out exactly what's actually going on, doing the due diligence on all those things in order to ensure that you don't run into issues down the line. Because at the end of the day, yes, it's the installer who has to, do the 25-year roof penetration warranty or whatever it is that's making your installer better than the other one. But the customer is seeing you, right? And you're who they're going to call if there's any issues, right? If there's a roof leak, if they need to lift a lien on a property in case they need to buy another house, or if there's another problem that shows up 2, 3, 4 years down the line, you got to be there in order to ensure that person's taken care of. And this is one of the things that you find pretty commonly that I really try to teach people is don't be conflict avoidant. Run straight into the conflict. It's always going to be better than to not communicate, right? I may have said it earlier in this video, we've spaced these out, but honest conflict over dishonest harmony, right? The idea that if something goes wrong, right, as long as you're there talking to them, you're going to be okay, right? Because they trusted you from the very get-go. So you have to keep that trust going all the way through the entire process, including even after installation, because they're the ones who are going to get you referrals, and they're the ones who are going to allow you to sleep well at night. If you know that you've done shoddy business over and over and over again, that creeps into your head. I've seen it break people down where there's like, oh man, I don't want to do this work anymore, or whatever. I made some money there and then I left. This is a career and you have to treat it like that. And so I take on a lot of responsibility with that when it comes to my reps and then with my installation teams as well.
Most companies, they need capital or investors up front. How did you fund the company in the early stages?
Hello, how's it going, right? That's how we funded it, right? Because it's a different situation. I'm not buying all the panels, I'm not buying all the stuff. What do I need in order to be able to start the company? Well, we need basic insurance, right? Depending on the state that you're in, a lot of insurance, like places like California, is actually a lot of upfront capital when it comes to becoming an actual dealer, which is something that people don't think about when they're like, I'm going to become a partner with all these installers. Well, just make sure that you're protected in case anything ever occurs in the future, right? You got to pay for the door knocking apps, all that stuff. And what it came from was, I was in a situation where the company I was working with prior to decided to just not pay me out $96,000. Right? That's a hell of a lot of money. There's a lot of expenses. We're getting a new office and all this other stuff that we had. So I went out and I knocked. And so technically like the first month really that we got our installers locked in and everything else, I did 30 deals in a month. That's what funded the company.
Yes.
Right? That's what funded a lot of that stuff.
It's so cool to hear, because there's probably people listening that are really into business. There could be a 20-year-old guy watching right now. He wants to get into business somehow. He doesn't know how to start, what to do. But door knocking is such a great way.
Best place in the world to do that.
Start building capital.
Right.
And if you want to start a business at some point, door knock and save up money. You don't have to worry about investors.
I've taught people in like different fields.
Yeah.
I have a buddy in Arizona. He's not going to be the best sales guy for something like solar. He's not quite into that mental spot yet.
Right.
But he just does basic home renovation stuff. And I worked on his pitch with him. And I was like, just start off going door to door and build it from there. Door to door
is so good because first of all, you need to know sales if you want to start any business in the future. And you're going to learn the sales. And then also you're going to make a ton of money.
Yeah.
To fund your business, whatever it is that you want to do in the future. Yeah. I see you're expanding all these markets like Houston right now. And as you expand to more and more states, how are you handling that?
You're just constantly on the lookout for good people, right? Whether it's going to be good recruits, good installation partners, and just communicating with as many people as possible, right? Because everyone's dealing with the same problem, which is you only have so many hours in the day that you're awake. And then you can compound that. How many days an hour are the people in those other offices going to be at their offices when they're actually working, right? Trying to figure out what's the best time to do anything. But I think, taking kind of the Alex Hormozi viewpoint of just give away everything for free has been one of the best things we've ever done, right? With Real Sales Dynamics, it's really given us this great opportunity where, as certain people will say, I sell this way, I do these things, You get to actually just see it, right? You see it in face to face, and you're doing that with your YouTube channel as well, and I think that's really important. And as that level of transparency increases, I've just found that attracts a specific type of people that I really want to work with, which are guys who don't want to deal with the bullshit, right? They're like, okay, explain to me how this stuff actually works, because I want to believe in this product, but I don't understand it because my managers aren't teaching me, right? Or I can't find it online or something else like that. And being able to take those young guys and get them into positions where they're making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year is just a transformative thing. I feel fucking amazing when I know that my former barber's making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year selling solar. That's awesome. Yeah. When there's guys who I knew who were struggling in other different portions of their lives are now doing amazing. So It's just a matter of finding the right people to link up with, and then finding the right leaders to work with in those different states. And this is kind of a call out to leaders in general. If you're in a position to where you're working at a solar company that's maybe not treating you the way you think you should be treated, right, within certain means, we want to offer that opportunity. If they're already studs and they're already killing it, let's figure out if we can, figure out some kind of position that's going to be able to help them accelerate the amount of sales they're getting, get better install partners, and then just be honestly flooded with reps. Because there are guys all over the entire United States who want this opportunity, who are yearning for it, who just don't have the leaders in those spots in order to be able to do that.
Exactly. You guys have 3 owners? You have Johnny,
No,
Jake?
2.
Oh, so just Johnny?
Yeah,
And
just
you.
Johnny.
So it's only 2 of you guys. So when you go in more and more cities, how are you training these people, and who's leading them?
It just depends on the city, depends on the state, depends on the conversations, depends on who we know at that time, and we kind of arrange it from there. Right now, my thought process is just owning the fuck out of Florida. It's just a tremendous market, and I love it. And expanding out to other portions of Texas as well, namely places also like Dallas is a great spot for that. South Carolina, there's a lot of opportunities for reps to make significant amounts of money out in those areas because of the changes that are happening with utilities. And then you can play out to other places in the Northeast, kind of like breaking it apart of like West and East with us.
Okay, so you'll just be doing remote Zoom for...
Yeah, for the most part, you fly out, you chat with people, you figure out who the leaders are, if they're good guys, things like that. And then you kind of pull from there.
Have some local leaders in there.
Yeah, you need guys out in the field. I know there's some companies that are trying to run where you just have Zoom meetings and then you just hope that these 5 guys can figure out their shit.
Yeah.
And that usually fails. And I can tell you how many times where, I've had guys where they're in some state, I get negotiated for an installer, I do all this work and everything else. Oklahoma, various other states.
Really?
And they're going, yeah, no, I'll get it done, man. I can get this all done. The percentage of people who can door knock is small. The percentage of people who can lead door knockers, way smaller. And the percentage of people who can lead themselves, even smaller than that. Because it's not just a matter of, you can drop a guy to become a manager in an organization that's already there, and he can figure it out. You get a guy and you just drop him into a territory and go ahead and recruit from there, level up, figure things out.
Doing their own thing.
It's such a tiny percentage of people that can do that.
Yeah, especially someone that isn't a salaried worker. And
Yep.
it's like at that point, the people that are like that are having their own companies.
Yeah, I can show you how hard it is. I did it.
Yeah.
I came up to Tampa and I knew not a single damn person. And it was me, my wife now, and Garrett for filming. And he went, and then
social media.
we just kind of figured it out from there.
Yeah. We got your background, we got how the company works, and this has been like a month or 2 months in the making.
It's been a long process.
So yeah, if you guys have any other questions in the future, maybe we'll do one again. If we get enough comments, comment any other questions. Maybe we'll revisit this a year from now and do another one.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yes, absolutely.
Sounds good.
Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a blast just learning more about you, Carlos. Where can we find you? Where can we find Pacific United Power?
Yeah, of course. So go on YouTube, type in Real Sales Dynamics, and you'll be able to learn, be able to watch your videos and everything else. If you are interested in changing your job landscape as a whole, go to pacificunitedpower.com. There's a submission form on there. We can get everything. And then most importantly, Instagram, The Wolf of Solar. There's a lot of my trainings on there and a bunch of good stuff, and we can connect through there. So I just like connecting with different guys, whether they're working with me or not. Being able to help out people in this community is always a huge win in my life.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man. That was good.